Breaking news this afternoon. Manchester United forward Mason Greenwood has been cleared and had all criminal proceedings against him dropped by the Crown Prosecution Service in the United Kingdom. We all know the allegations of sexual assault were raised against Mason Greenwood just over 12 months ago. He was formally charged in October of 2022 after a 9 to 10 month investigation. But just 3 to 4 months later, there will be no criminal proceedings against him. Charges have been dropped. By what we're reading and what we're being told, he is now clear of all allegations. But the big question remains, what comes next for Mason Greenwood? Should he return to football? Do Manchester United honour his contract? Is there a way back for him into the game? Is this a case of he is innocent because he wasn't proven guilty? We obviously have all heard the voice note. We have all seen the pictures. And that, of course, from the outside looking in, appears to show complete and utter guilt. That shows him as 110% guilty. But of course, we don't know the full context. We don't know the full story. We don't understand exactly what is going on. So it's a very difficult situation for fans here. Do you get behind the man because there's no criminal proceedings? Therefore, in the eyes of the law, he is innocent. Has he been able to squeeze through this on a loophole? Has he got off on a technicality? Therefore, the guilt remains, but proving it in court would have been impossible because of a fair trial. We need more information on this as fans. We need to understand what is going on because after 12 months, he is now clear of all charges. What people thought they knew may be different. I want to get your thoughts and I want to get your feelings on this. I want to understand what you're going through. The CPS spokesperson here has said, in this case, the combination of a withdrawal of key witnesses and new material that has come to light means there is no longer a realistic prospect of conviction. Well, that reads to me as an untrained person that, of course, the young lady involved, the alleged victim, had maybe stated she doesn't want to give evidence, has said, I will not give evidence, maybe has stated some different facts to how it appears, but the new material that has come to light, what does that mean? Is that additional voice notes of that give you more context to what we heard? Is there proof that is there evidence that disproves that the markings or the attacks or the hits or the punches and the bruises on the young lady were not indeed inflicted by Mason Greenwood? I apologize for the slip of the tongue. I'm sorry. We don't know. I want your opinions on this, what you think and feel, but I do believe football fans need more clarity. A question here says, is he out of prison? My understanding was he's never been held in prison. He's always been out on bail this entire time. I don't know how much time he's actually spent behind bars, but he's not been sitting in. There we go. New material means evidence to the contrary. Absolutely, it does. And we don't know what that evidence is. We absolutely don't. But I also want to be very, very careful about this because there is also the potential, there will be a lot of people today that will feel every single time there's an allegation of sexual assault, it's very, very difficult for women to be taken seriously. It's very, very difficult it's very, very difficult for women to be taken seriously. And it's very, very difficult for them to be listened to and to get a voice. And there'll be a lot of people that will be angry about this, almost seen as another rich person gets away with committing a crime. And I think that's why clarity is needed so that people understand the inner goings on of this situation. KJ is going to be joining me to have his say on this as well. Manish says, what new material? Yeah, my friend, we just have not been given that information. I don't know how I feel about it, Terry. And Joshua Jack, I am exactly the same. Terry, this woman was taken very seriously. Don't conflate stuff. I didn't say that. Again, you're not listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth. You're hearing something different. I said there'll be people that will feel this way. I didn't say she hasn't been taken seriously. I think a 12-month-long investigation shows me personally it has been taken seriously. But of course, there will be people that feel differently, and everybody deserves to have their voice heard, my friend. So please don't conflate what I said. You know for a fact some people are going to be angry about this. So to act like that isn't going to happen, I think it's a madness, VK. I think would be a madness. It's impossible for bruises and such to be faked. I remember seeing Amber Heard talk about Johnny Depp bruising her, but it was later revealed she used a bruise kit So the bruises were yeah, okay. So bruises being fake. So let me just say now, when I say fake, excuse my non-technical term, I mean not caused by Greenwood. I'll give you an example. At the moment, I got a massive bruise on my leg. I don't know how I got it. I don't know how I got it. The point is I've still got a bruise on my leg. As an example, my kids get little bruises on them. They run into each other, they fall over, they scrape their legs. Bruises can appear. My point is, how did they appear? Where did they come from? Does that make sense? Like that's the point. Like that new evidence, that new material could mean the date that was suggested that Mason Greenwood did it. What if there is evidence that proves that he was away for 3 days with Man United on that time period? And if one's disproven, then credibility of the others comes into question. This is how the law works. So I think that that's what I mean by I don't want to speculate. You're kind of forcing me to by challenging my points. We don't know what the new material is, but I think we do need to know. If he's innocent, we if he's innocent, we don't need him. If he's innocent, we don't need him. I don't know what that means. That makes no sense, bro. If he's innocent, we don't need him. We'll come back to that because KJ's behind it. Yeah, cool. Terry, innocent. That's it. Nothing else is what's been said here. I don't see. Listen, I don't always agree with just because he hasn't the criminal proceedings have been dropped. That means he's innocent. And I tell you as to why. I grew up in a very rough housing estate. There was a lot of lads I knew on the estate that were criminals who had cases dropped. That didn't mean they didn't do it. We all knew they did it, but it couldn't be proven. That's why. And normally, if this was a normal case, I would sit there and say it's nothing to do with me because it impacts my football club and it impacts football, and he could return. I think football fans, before they condemn it or condone it, before they support it or before they push back, need to have an understanding of what went on. Because do you want to support him blindly? Do you want to condemn him blindly? I don't want to do either. And it's going to happen if he remains in football. It really, really is. It really, really is. There's another comment here that says, Terry, I'm very interested to see what United will do about it. Yeah, me too. I'm very intrigued to see what the reaction from Manchester United is going to be. I'm very interested to see what the reaction will be. But I think that will be based on the evidence. If I was Manchester United, I would be saying, I want to see every piece of evidence for and against him. And our lawyers are going to review it. If there's any chance of you coming back, we have to review every ounce of evidence. And maybe they've already done that. I said this about the situation with a certain other player arrested in the summer. I said this about Callum Hudson-Odoi when he was arrested. By the way, he wasn't charged. It was dropped within days. A very different scenario. But I said the same thing on all those streams. The clubs should be demanding full access to every piece of information. If it was my if I'm an employer and one of my staff this happened to, I'm saying, listen, I need to see everything. You may choose not to, but I want to see everything before I make a decision. Especially if you're in a public-facing job, I think it's very, very key indeed. I really, really do. Leave it to the club and manager. In Ten Hag we trust. Yeah, I understand that. And I think that Ten Hag's a man of integrity. I get that. But personally, maybe this is as an older man, as a father, I need to understand why. I need to understand why, personally. Boss here says he is innocent. Case closed. Let him play. He will be a superstar. I mean, what's mad about that? Me and KJ were just saying the other day, it was £100 million problem Man United spent. Well, £85 million they spent on Anthony in the summer for him. I'm telling you now, the Glazers will be pissed because they're callous. They only care about money. But KJ's here. We've been able to speak on this situation. Big breaking news about Mason Greenwood. I don't want to use the word crazy, but just out there. Before we come to your opinion on it, this is just what the full Crown prosecution statement has said today. And to read this out, it says that Chief Superintendent Michaela Kerr, Greater Manchester Police Head of Public Protection, said, given the significant media coverage of this case, it is only fair that we share the news that the 21-year-old man who has been arrested and charged in connection with an investigation opened in January 2022 is no longer facing criminal proceedings in relation to this. The investigations team has remained in regular contact with a legal team, providing any updates of note, and so understand the rationale for the discontinuation of proceedings at this stage, and that this is a decision not taken lightly. Despite the media and public interest in this case, we have decided not to comment on it in any further detail. I would, however, like to use this opportunity to reiterate Greater Manchester's police commitment to investigating allegations of violence against women and girls and support those affected, regardless of their circumstances, throughout what can be a hard and upsetting time for them. An ever increasing number of officers have received specialist training, and the force is more consistently utilizing tools available via the criminal justice system to keep people safe and care for victims. If you feel you are or might be a victim, please don't let this case put you off asking for help. So essentially, they're saying at this point that they're not going to give out any more information. They're not going to say anything more. But what's your initial feeling to this, KJ?
I am speechless. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I feel a bit ill, to be fair. How have we heard something, seen and heard evidence like this, and we've seen the process throughout a whole year. It's been a whole year of him being out of the team, being out of football, and this is the conclusion without a trial, without like proceedings going forward in terms of you can maybe get the coverage of you see all the evidence, you hear all the arguments for and against, and then a jury decided with a judge that what's going on. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I feel I'm just shocked because this is not good. There is no goodness in any of this. There's no sense of justice for a lot of people. There's no sense of due process for a lot of people, and there's no clarity. We have no idea how this is all transpired. Why has the charges been dropped? There's been mention of new material and a key witness being removed. Why did the key witness withdraw? And what is this new material that makes it so that there's no need or there's no reason to go and prosecute this further? I just don't know. It's just difficult how to feel, man. It's difficult how to feel. Like, it's just shocking, really. I feel
Listen,
for a lot of people.
yeah, and listen, I understand that. I wouldn't say there's no good to come from this, but I would say we don't know, and that's because we don't understand what's gone on. I don't want to be seen as defending Mason Greenwood without knowing that. That's like I said about 5 minutes ago. For me, I would like to understand what this new material is, and I say that because maybe that new material completely changes your mind. It can change my mind. If I sat here a year ago and said I don't want him playing for Manchester United again, that was based on the pictures and that was based on the voice note, which was chilling, and it can't be ignored. It was chilling, and it may very well be that because the witness has pulled away and there's been some evidence that's come in that means they need to challenge the alleged victim. And because she's not willing to stand up in court and say anything, which they can't force her to do, the case falls through. Therefore, it seems a technicality that Mason Greenwood's had the charges dropped against him. And if it's a technicality, then I would stand by my original thoughts that I don't want him playing for the club. However, if the material evidence proves that he didn't commit the violence against her to begin with, and there are additional voice notes that apply far more context to what was going on, and you think, okay, it changes my mind, then you look at it from a point of view of maybe a year of a young man's life has been wasted. And there have been many people, and this is what I would say, there have been many people in the UK convicted of crimes, similar crimes to this, murder crimes. There have been people that have faced capital punishment in the UK many years ago that years later were completely proven innocent. So I think what's really sensible to remember in this is that because we don't know, it's very hard to speculate. I think we all reacted to what we heard and we're right to do so. But at the same time, if you just just Google sort of like injustice court case, like unjust prison sentences, or I don't know how you Google it, but like unjust cases in the United Kingdom, the amount you'll read and then you'll read it and go, how did that happen? How did that person spend that? Some people have spent 20, 30 years behind bars for doing absolutely nothing before. But yet they obviously got convicted with evidence being preceded. And I'm not suggesting that's what Mason Greenwood has gone through. For me, because it now appears that he may come back to football, at the very least, I want my club to be allowed to do that due diligence. Like for me, if I run Man United Football Club, I am saying today to Mason Greenwood and his legal team, the only way back is if you give us access to everything. That way they can make a moral. The thing is, when you're an employer, you're not in a court of law. You can make a moral decision on what to do as opposed to a legal one. The Crown Prosecution Service can't charge you or do criminal proceedings based on morality and a gut feeling. They have to have evidence beyond reasonable doubt. And if there's evidence that's come in that challenges that reasonable doubt, and then witnesses don't want to stand up in court and fight back against it, there's nothing they can do, as far as I'm aware. Like so for me, you're right. It's such a difficult situation to be in. It really, really is.
And listen, I'm a believer in redemption. I believe that everyone should get a chance to redeem themselves once they've paid for their crime or sins or however you want to explain it. Once they've done that, you have a chance to redeem yourself, to change, to make yourself better, to become a better person. Everyone should get that chance. But because this played out so publicly, because we don't know what's going on and why things are dropped and what the real reasons are, redemption for a lot of people is out of the question. You know what I mean? So until the information comes out, and the information has to be he's completely innocent because of X, Y, Z reasons. I don't think no matter what he does, I don't even if he plays for Man United or not, if he moves to another team or not, even if he retires from football and never plays football again, I don't know if that's enough for people. I just don't think it is. So it's very, very hard to take. You know what I mean? It's very difficult, very confusing, and yeah, I just hope the girl is okay.
Yeah,
I hope she's okay and her family are okay, because this is a lot to go through, and
yeah,
I don't know, like this could be damaging. This could be, I don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, this comment here makes a lot of sense. You've seen the evidence, and we've seen what we've seen. We have seen what we have seen. But the Crown prosecution themselves have said that new material has come in that has challenged this evidence. So my point is this: is it irresponsible of the public to just go, I don't care what the new evidence is defending Greenwood, I don't want to hear it? Well, if that's your argument, that means that you don't believe in due process. And the one thing I will say, whether it's Greenwood's case or Joe Nobody, everybody deserves due process. There is a legal system in place that is meant to be there to protect us. I'm not suggesting they've followed it to 100% the 100% right. I'm saying that's why I want to know the ins and outs. If this was someone that was going to go back to being a carpenter on a building site or go back to running his bakery, I would still be concerned because they're still in the public. They could still hurt other people. But the fact that this person could be coming back into a high-profile job, playing for the biggest club in England, that's my club, I want to understand why they haven't proceeded in specificity. And that specificity is what made even change whoever put that comment in, anti-stupid, no vax, anti-stupid, not back. You may change your mind once seeing it. And that's the thing about this situation. I do this when somebody's first arrested. I don't shame the potential victim. I don't find guilty the potential perpetrator. I say, I want to see evidence. Now, in this case, we saw what we saw. And for me, if I'm going to give you my honest feeling right now, is I still feel like I'm more convinced that it happened. That's my personal feeling. However, but because he's not being found guilty, there is a chance he comes back to Man United. If Man United, by the way, say, no, we're not bringing him back, that will be enough for me to say, I think when they've reviewed it, they've gone, by balance of probability, we think he's guilty. We're not going to keep him employed. If Man United bring him back, I'm still sitting in the camp of, I need to know why, though, before I put my support behind it. Because did you get what I'm saying? Like, I almost feel like I can't support it without knowing. I can't support him returning without knowing what it is that he did. That's just how I feel right now.
And the frustrating thing will be is we probably will never know. We probably will never know unless a person from either side comes out and explains it all and the other side can verify that as the truth, we will never know what's really gone down here, and that's going to be frustrating for fans. And honestly, at this rate, I think Mason Greenwood should just stop playing football. You know what I mean? Just don't play. I know money is great. I know the fame is great, but look for him as a young man. Where that's got him? Like, if he's not innocent, he should be in prison. If he is innocent, I think he should just walk away. There's no need to go through all of this because of what? Money, fame? It's not worth it. Like, your mental health, the way people will be vilifying him, the way people will be going after him. I just don't see if it's, I personally don't think it's worth it. So yeah, this is tough. This is tough. Hey, listen, Ali One, listen, you think I'm talking nonsense, but this is real life, bro. Like, we can't just be sitting, yep, that's it. He's innocent. We're all good to go. It's more complex than that. You can't sit here and just be easy like that.
And equally, yeah, I mean, this says here that they said that a key witness withdrew their statement, apparently. Yes, and we need to understand why. So someone could, there's so many ramifications here. Someone could have withdrew it because they were lying and they felt guilty and they couldn't go through with it in the end. They could have withdrew it because although it's the person's guilty, they love that person too much and can't go through it. There's so many outcomes of it. And the difference is this, that there is a being found guilty in a court of law, and then there is how you feel about things from a morale basis. Sorry, not morale, morality basis. And that's what Man United have now got to weigh up, because Man United have now got a huge decision, to make here. They really do. This here says, Terry, we all know he will play for us again. Fergie and United knew about Giggs' antics. But Ryan Giggs was sleeping with his brother's wife. That's not illegal. I know that people don't like it because it's immoral. I'm not somebody that looks at immoral acts as bad in comparison to criminal acts. I think drink driving is a worse offense than cheating on your wife, because it literally kills people. So that's just my view. If I was an employee and it turned out my staff member cheated on his wife, I'd say, oh, that's not very nice. Get back to work. If it turned out he was drink driving, I would sack the person. So don't conflate what Ryan Giggs did during his time at Man United with what Mason Greenwood's been accused of. They are not the same. Cheating on your wife is not a criminal offense, such as what Mason Greenwood was arrested and charged for. I think that's, I'll be honest with you, you can't conflate the two things. They are nowhere near the same as one another, in my opinion. This here from Akeem says, I hear you, KJ, but it's hard for someone who only knew football from 6 to let football behind and live in a civilian life. Retired pros struggle with it.
No, I hear that, and I understand people say, well, if he is innocent, why would he just throw it all away? I'm not saying he's going to do that. I'm thinking that's an option. There's more to life than being a global superstar. Like, most of us live really nice, happy lives, and we're not footballers. So just because he's had something doesn't mean he has to keep it. I'm just saying it is going to be a lot to go through, no matter what the decision is and the reasoning why, and it's going to be a lot to go through. And
it certainly is. And I think that, again, I'm going to be balanced. It depends on whether he has or hasn't done it. Because, again, he may sit there and go, if he knows he ain't done this, he'll go, why should I retire from football? Equally, if he knows in his heart of hearts that he has, and he's got away with this because of a technicality, then I think you're right. He should walk away. Mama Flossie here says a drop case does not mean he is innocent. And again, there is a difference between being proven innocent in a court of law and a case being dropped. And we've seen this works in every direction. You're absolutely right. And which is why we are now looking at a morality situation with Man United, a morality situation with the Premier League even. The Premier League could step in here and say, we will not allow him. UEFA could step in and say, we will not allow him to be registered to play. There's so many levels to this where they could review it and go, don't care what the court of law in England says. We're not letting him play football. This is what now needs to be investigated. Football here needs to do its job. They really, really do. They really have got to come out and do their job. We have a comment here from Shane that says prosecution proceed now, even if victims pull out even if victims pull out new evidence. Shane, listen, I always forget that as well. Big, massive Crown Court crimes, murders, sexual assaults, they can lead. You don't need the material, the victim statement to be prosecuted, which is why we need to understand who the witness that pulled out is. We need to understand who that person is and why. We need to know, or at the very least, what I need to hear from Manchester United is we've done an investigation, we've reviewed all the evidence for, all the evidence against, we've spoken to this, we've spoken to that, we've consulted, and we are satisfied of this. If I hear that, then I'd be more comfortable with it. But if I just hear he's coming back because he's got a contract, that's going to be a very, very hard one for me to swallow, I've got to say. But I want to get your views and opinions. This from Grant says, Terry is spot on. The club should take a stand to review the new materials, the manager to speak to players, put him in an isolated training, get his head right, and take it from there. You also got to understand that even if, let's just paint a hypothetical situation that he did nothing wrong and he's allowed to play, it could take him a year to be fully fit enough. I mean, what's he been doing? He's a year of not playing. Could he even come back? Like, I know he's only 21, but could he even come back? I don't know. The last time I saw a picture of him, he looked disheveled. He looked skinny. Obviously, whether he's guilty or not, it's going to be a stressful situation to be in. Can he even return? But I think you're absolutely right. I think what you've said here, Grant, that is what the club needs to do at this point. And again, maybe the club go, well, we found nothing wrong. But if the players say, we think he did it, and they don't want him back, the club has to make a big moral stance there. I think that's a very fair way to look at this.
You know what the issue is as well? I've heard stories from people who have been in and around Greenwood sphere, whether it's be friends of a friend or directly know him through it. The stories of him ain't good anyway. You know what I mean? We've seen what happened with the England camp. There are reasons why his parents, Ollie and Southgate, were leaving him out of England teams. There was times in Man United where he got left out of teams and left out of squads, and no one really understood why. So there is issues with this young man. There is. And this is why I said that when we first heard about the news last year, I looked at football. I looked at just the entity of football clubs, football associations, whatever it is. We need to help these young men. We need to help grow these young men in a way that they can be sound citizens. I'm not saying they have to be perfect, because no one can be. But some of the things that some of these footballers get up to and get away with, if that was your brethren, if that was your brother, if that was someone that you know, you're not having it. You're not accepting that. But because they're footballers, they can get away with foolishness. I don't care. That's not okay. We need to help these young guys be better people, because they get drowned. They're drowning. Some of them are drowning. They get 20K, 50K, 100K a week contracts by the age of 23. They get women throwing themselves at them. They get people trying to come and be their friend, trying to give them opportunities and trying to leech off them. That's a lot for young people to handle. So they need help no matter what happens with Greenwood. We just need to help these footballers, football clubs, football associations. UEFA, FIFA need to find ways, bring in psychologists, bring in mentors, bring in all these different things that help guide these young men from making terrible mistakes and terrible decisions.
Yeah, look, and I understand again, and I know obviously you're a very morally grounded person based on your religion, and I respect that. I do still, again, I'm not talking about Greenwood specifically. I'm talking about young footballers. There is a fundamental difference between being a bit of a tit as a 20-year-old and being someone who is committing heinous crimes. Most 20-year-old men are idiots. Like if you actually just went back, and I bet if you got a video footage of yourself at 20, you'd be like, oh, such an idiot. The things you think, the things you feel, the things you say, but you throw millions of pounds at that and access to the world and nobody's saying no to you. Like that culture, is very toxic. And I think I think the culture of young people now anyway is fairly toxic in society. I think that, the way I see people talk, the way I see people react to things, sort of like, oh, wow, like there's like things have gone a little bit south and awry. So I think that there's an issue there in general.
But I'm not just saying it just for football. This is how you've heard me talk.
No, I agree. I think it is that. And I think one thing that football has to learn to do is it's fine for these young players to earn this money, but the money's got to be deferred. The money for these young players has got to be deferred, put into put into trusts. So if you're 18 years old, you get a new deal and it's 150 grand a week. Yeah, great. But until you're 25, 75,000 pound a week of that is going into a trust and you don't get to touch it. And then when you're 25, it gets released. And maybe the new deal you sign at 22, that's now 300 grand a week. You don't get to touch 200 grand a week of that until you're 30. One, it protects people from leeching off your money. And two, you're still going to be wealthy. You're still going to live a good life, but you're not suddenly super rich where what am I going to spend this money on every week? And I think that something along those lines is needed in football to help control. And maybe you get it. Maybe they can start adding behavioral bonuses in. So you're on 300 grand a week because you're one of the best young players in the world. But if you're caught in nightclubs at stupid o'clock during like footballing time, if you're in altercations, if you're in these things, you lose percentages of that money. Like incentivize good behavior. It's funny when I remember like spending time in the States when I was younger for the kickboxing and karate. And a lot of the guys that did it there, they had like student athlete programs where if they were out on a Friday night with their friends and they messed around and they got arrested for being stupid, they wouldn't be able to compete. They wouldn't be able to compete. And I used to sit there and think to myself, this is the way of encouraging kids. Like you will lose access to your sport that you love if you're messing around. And it helped keep people in check. And I think we need to bring something like that into the sporting society. I mean, society in general, but into the sports world, absolutely. So more super chats here. Says another conversation that needs to be had is how players can be protected or defended against false allegations. It's far too easy to target football players, especially how public their salaries are. Listen, I think that's a side subject. You're absolutely right. I'm not going to make any to allege anything for or against Mason Greenwood in that space, but we know there have been players, Callum Hudson-Odoi fairly recently, that have suffered with this, but it's a real difficult one. It's a real difficult one to have a conversation about. I probably wouldn't host a conversation like that without experts being present because you need experts on those subjects. Not going to lie, this might be down to bad parenting. So that could be a very big part of it. Absolutely. We saw the evidence corrupt system. Like we did see evidence, but that's what we saw. We saw evidence. And I remember after I went on space and I condemned it when it all happened. And I remember that same afternoon, my dad and my brothers came around and we were talking about it. And one of my brother's wives just said, but you've only seen a part of the evidence, haven't you? She's like a legal secretary, so she's not a lawyer, but she works in the legal system. I said, well, yeah, but it's clear cut. And all I remember her saying to me was, I've seen loads of cases like that look clean cut. And then you start digging in and then there's lots in the other direction as well. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. Like I just took it for read. And I'm not suggesting there is that in this situation. But the fact they've said that new material has come to light. So what I would say is this. Don't just go, a witness pulled out, that's why he got off. They also stated that new material came to light. So I want to know what that is. Like, does that make sense? And the reason why I really want to know in this case is because we know what the evidence against him was. So in all the other cases, we just hear that a player gets arrested and they do or don't get charged. Like with Benjamin Mendy, we all thought he was going down. Like, because he was kept in remand, all the charges. And I mean, I don't know if he's been cleared of everything, but
no, there's still a few left.
There's still a few left, but he's been cleared of loads of them. So my point being, but because we didn't see any evidence against him, you can accept his innocent verdict easier. Because we didn't see any evidence against the player arrested in the summer, we can accept that he's still playing football easier. The point is, if you saw the evidence you'd change your mind on it, but you've still got to see the evidence. Sorry, if you've seen the evidence against, your mind would be different. You need to see both sides. And I feel like the general public, I know it sounds really self-indulgent, but I almost feel like we need to know what it is before we can really assess our minds. When rich, talks. Sorry, but go on.
I'm sorry, the Kid McFly. I'm sorry. I normally trolls can say what they like normally when it comes to football, innit? But when it comes to a serious man, don't say things like I don't care about new evidence, because I clearly do. Terry, wherever I said anywhere that the new evidence don't matter, he's guilty XYZ. Nowhere in the street.
Haven't said it
so
once.
Don't come in here and say certain things about me about serious topic. Please don't do that. Football, say what you like. It is what it is. Not this.
Absolutely. But there's a comment here that says Terry is being disingenuous on needing experts. The whole show is based on stoning Mason. So when people talk about the possibility of innocence, we need experts. That isn't what I said at all, though, is it, my friend? You've not been go back and watch the beginning of the video. I clearly stated that I'm conflicted because I've seen the evidence against him. I would like to know what the evidence is for him that has partly led to the criminal proceedings being dropped. I've said that I am unsure about how I feel about this. What IU brought up was having a conversation about how to protect football players from false allegations. And from my point of view, that's a completely different situation because there isn't any claim here from anybody. The CPS and the police in Manchester have not said the case has been dropped because we found that the allegations were false. So it's a completely different subject that isn't connected to this Mason Greenwood situation. And my point of view is this. I'm not saying I'm an expert on the legal proceedings. I'm saying from a morality point of view, I want to understand what the evidence is for Mason Greenwood or why he may potentially come back to football before I know how I completely feel about it. What I'm not saying is that we're going to hold a debate here on the full understanding of the legal system. That would take experts to have their say. And that isn't what we're doing here, my friend. So you haven't listened to the beginning of the video and you are the one who's being disingenuous by twisting my words. I did not say that. Don't try it, my bro. Didn't say it once. It's a completely different situation because there is no evidence to suggest the allegations were false against Mason Greenwood. And allegations being false in my eyes are my allegations being false in my eyes are the whole thing's completely made up. There was no Mason Greenwood didn't even know who she was. That would be like a false allegation. He met her at a nightclub and said goodbye to her. Someone says false allegations. Why are you even bringing that up? Again, Andrew, sometimes, I don't know if you're talking to me or the previous commenter, somebody super chatted about having a conversation about false allegations. That's what the previous comment was about. So if you're not, you may have watched the whole show. That's why it's come up. I'm not bringing it up. It's mad if people jump in late and then they hear a bit of a snippet of a conversation. They're going to be like, oh my God, like, what's Terry saying? It's a madness to me. It's a madness what that guy just said. But there we go. This is what Josh said. He went, I respect both sides' perspectives. We have many false allegations in the States with athletes. If it is false, the evidence would cause toxicity towards the alleged victim and would be embarrassing, is what Josh says here. Oh, Andrew was talking about the previous comment. Fair enough. There's some more super chats here that I want to delve into. Would the club be willing to take him back? Like, as we've said, I think it all makes sense from a perspective. They need to fully investigate it themselves. Maybe they've already done that. I would expect a statement very soon from Man United, of maybe just a holding statement, but there's going to be something along those lines coming down, in my opinion. Dyke here says, "Oh, okay, makes sense, Terry. Big up you and KJ." Fair enough, Dyke. I appreciate that, and that's why I think both sides need to be listened to here. I think if United sells releases him, then it's more likely he's guilty, but charges dropped for whatever reason. I hope both parties are okay. GUPI. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Kingsley. Guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, but again, because we've heard and seen stuff, you now need something on the contrary. You know, you need to understand because you've seen it. There was a video. I use him as an example because he's such a public figure. There's a video that came out of Andrew Tate, and this is what I want to say about this evidence. So I listened to Piers Morgan today. He interviewed the lawyer of Andrew Tate on his show. And I am not saying he's innocent or guilty because I don't know. But she stated that two things. The old video of him hitting a woman with a belt, the lady in that video was twice. Once when it first came out years ago, when he was on Big Brother, and then most recently stated, we did that on a regular basis. It was our kink. I like a man to dominate and beat me like that with a belt or a whip or whatever. So it's completely innocent. His lawyer has also stated, I mean, you don't get that because that's not your will. But so for some people, like, that's their thing.
Each to their own,
there's people that are into that stuff. What his lawyer also stated is that there's voice notes that have come out since his arrest that show him sort of threatening or talking about sexually assaulting women. And the fact she said this publicly is interesting because normally they won't release this information into a trial. But she stated that we've already provided the evidence to the prosecution service in Romania. If you listen to the voice notes before and after it, the lady was encouraging him to say these things. It's a kink. And so for me, again, I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying what the lawyer has said. And we had this conversation privately, KJ, not a few months back, that a friend of mine that's a lawyer spoke about many cases he's dealt with where when you see a snapshot of evidence, it makes a man or a woman look really guilty. Then you see the whole body of evidence and what they're into sexually, the things they get up to, and your mind is completely changed. That's why when you're shown the evidence we've seen, the only way your mind's ever going to be changed is by seeing more evidence. That's the situation Mason Greenwood and Man United are in. Even if Man United just say we've done an investigation, we're fine with it, United are going to get slammed by rivals, slammed by some of their own fans, and ripped into by the media. That's why I honestly feel like the only way back is to reveal counter evidence. I don't understand how anybody buys into Mason Greenwood without being convinced, because we've seen what's against him. So and what was, it's a hard one for me. It's a real hard one for me. Why would he walk away if he's innocent? Is what Sylvester says here.
As I said, it's a hard thing to go through. Some people might say it's not worth it, and they walk away. You know what I mean? Simple answer.
Shane says here, how can you hear evidence before he's been found guilty? And if it's so clear, how has it been dropped? And again, Shane, that is a fair question. That is a fair question that needs to be investigated and understood by people at Manchester United Football Club. If Ten Hag decides to bring him back to find to the fold, I'll back the manager, is what Derek believes. And again, for some people, that'll be enough. If you fully trust Ten Hag, you trust the people running the club, for some people, that'll be enough. I'll be honest with you. If Fergie was in charge and Fergie brought him back, I'd trust him, because I believe Fergie's generally speaking integral. But yeah, for everyone's going to have a different view on this. The evidence that has been seen is in the public, but one word, context. We've all heard about certain kinks. What were their kinks is what Benjamin Sharp says. And again, that will definitely be a challenge that people put up. There is absolutely no doubt. Sorry, we already put that one out there by Kingsley. Mason Greenwood is acquitted of assault, is what's been said. I can't put that one up because you've written a certain word that we're not allowed to show on the screen, my friend. I will terminate his contract and don't want any more bad eggs, even if he's not guilty, is what Jay has had to say here. And that's also a fair point. They may look at his overall behavior. They may look at a number of things and decide, actually, you're going to go and kind of move him on. And they're all definite outcomes that could happen here, I think. But listen, everyone's going to have a view and everybody's going to have an opinion on this. But I want to ask a question here of rival fans. If Man United were to bring him back, what's your take? I mean, I know what most rivals are going to do. United are going to go through the mud on this. There'll probably be one fan base at the moment that won't do it for a particular reason that I don't think they'll want. That they'll keep their powder dry. But the rest will come for Man United hard. Would you not? Would you not agree, KJ?
Yeah, like fam, we've seen it. Like rival fans go after Jamie Vardy and call his wife a grass. You know what I mean? So if this does happen and he does come back, no matter if he's innocent, proven innocent or not, people are just gonna come for him, and it's just the way that it is. I don't see rivals do any other thing really. I don't see why they would defend it or why they'll just let it go. They won't.
Yeah, I mean, there's a comment that I just read a second ago that said that it doesn't matter what the evidence is, United haters or hate. I'm not worried about that, but if we don't know what's gone on, then their words hold more kind of credence, because they could be right as well. If we know, and they may not give us specific details. Like I've said, what may suffice to me, and I'll need to wait until I see it. And it's always about waiting and seeing, because let's see what the statement says. But if we've reviewed all the material evidence for and against, we've spoke to, I'm just making this up now, but we spoke to the alleged victim, the father of the alleged victim. We spoke to people around the player. We spoke to teammates. We've done all this investigation and we are satisfied with X. I think I would feel more comfortable, but I need to wait and see what they say. If it's just he's coming back to training on Monday and that's all they say, that worries me, bro. That I can't lie. Like, that legitimately would worry me. I use back again says example for using emotions over empirical arguments. I mentioned a discussion on false allegations without mentioning Greenwood, and Terry correctly replies it's a separate conversation. But Andrew throws a fit for no reason.
Andrew
Tate? No. There's a guy, Andrew's comment. That I don't think Andrew. I think Andrew was talking about the person that had a go at me for saying that I would want experts to have that conversation, because it's as you just stated out, yeah, that it's a different situation that you're talking about. But I do think they're all from the same ballpark in terms of conversations that need to happen, because women need protection 110%. Young girls need protection, but also men and boys need protection at the same time, and education on these situations and circumstances. Like both sides absolutely do. 110%. 110%. Could they not lose fans over taking him back? Potentially they could. Again, I think it's all going to depend on what's said, what information comes out, and how things kind of proceed from that point. This year says the CPS reviewed evidence and dropped charges. Respect their decision. If they had said guilty, you would have said well done to them. So please respect the decision. I mean, again, that is a fair argument. If they would have said, if the Crown prosecution would have taken him to court and he would have been found guilty, we'd trust them. So are we not trusting them in this case?
You know what it is? It's because I think, but like you said, if it was Benjamin Mendy, because we've not seen evidence forward against, it's easy to be like, okay, I trust your decision. He's innocent or he's guilty. But because people have seen one side of the evidence, people are just they're just holding on to them. Be like, yeah, no, you haven't shown me the other side, so why should I believe that he's innocent? Like, I get it. That's a fair argument, but I understand why people will still be untrustworthy of the situation.
Terry, please don't be woke. I don't know what that means in this context. I'm not being woke. I'm being fair to both sides. I'm not going to stand here and just say 100%, no matter what's gone on, I'm backing Greenwood. I'm saying I want to see what's going on first. This is how I treat scenarios like this. I treat them as individual cases each time, and I want to know what's going on. You know, I don't treat anybody or anything as a group, whether it's type of crime, certain type of people. I don't treat anybody as a group ever. Like, I separate it. I don't even treat Man United fans as a group. I treat Man United fans as individuals. Like, everything I do is based on an individual basis. And I think if you look at the world through an individual lens at people or groups, you know, KJ is a Christian. That doesn't mean I judge. That doesn't mean I think all Christians are as good as KJ. Like, KJ being a Christian doesn't make other Christians good. It just makes KJ is good.
Or bad.
Oh, I know you're a good guy, so I can say that. The charges are dropped, but the video, photos, and audio will live on forever. The damage is already done. PR disaster to bring him back is what Tyler Howe has got to say here. Again, I think you make a very good point there. It is a PR nightmare for Man United. This would undo Ten Hag's great work. Cannot see him allowing this to negatively impact the team in the way it would. It would undo the positive vibes, is what Craig believes. I think it's a fair point. Again, unless, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Unless when all the information is revealed to the squad, they suddenly feel sorry for Mason Greenwood and they welcome him back. So I think, Craig, I think you're right. But there's a flip side to this. We don't know what this new material is. We don't know the ins and outs. So it's hard for us to say how other people would react to it. I'm saying I don't know how I feel about it until I know more. So I think, but I do get where you're coming from. Callum here says he should hold his head up higher and get back to professional football. He has had his name slandered over the last few months. If he was guilty, he would be in jail. End of, is what Callum believes here. What about fans and sponsors? Sell him is the best solution, is what Ramo's got to say.
I was going to say, if this is a PR nightmare for Man United, what do you think it is for the other clubs? You know what I mean? Other clubs don't magically just get, they've bought an alleged, into the club. It's fine. There's like every club with Mason Greenwood now is having a dilemma. So I was gonna ask who buys him? Who would buy him? Like, maybe in certain countries where this is not close to home, maybe that. But I don't know if he plays in England ever again. You know what I mean?
I hear you. This here says, let's be honest, Ronaldo got away with the same allegations in the US. I guess money talks. But I don't think that's a fair sweeping statement, again, because that's just saying, well, anyone who's got money that gets accused of an allegation, we have to assume they're all guilty. And again, but we do this now in society where someone's wealthy and we naturally assume that makes them a bad and evil and horrible person. And that's a very dangerous narrative to believe in. That there is someone being wealthy doesn't make them nasty and horrible, cruel, callous, and evil. Like, it just doesn't. For me, I just think that's the wrong way to look at it personally. I don't look at life like that. But that maybe that's just maybe that is just me. But there we go. Listen, there's not much more to add to this now. We know that the
Just gotta
charges and
wait.
criminal procedures have been dropped. We'll see what happens moving forward. We thought we'd break it to you. I'd like your views and your comments. I'd like to understand what football fans feel about this. I really would. I would say leave the young lady alone because she's been through a very big ordeal and does not deserve any type, because we have no idea who the witness is that pulled out. It may not have been her. We don't know. So I would say keep your powder dry. Don't embarrass yourself. And let's wait to see what more comes out. I think Man United have got to do a thorough investigation. I think the Premier League and UEFA have to do a thorough investigation into this to decide whether they feel Mason Greenwood deserves another chance within football. And after all of that, then a decision can be made. And that's why I'm going to keep my counsel, essentially, in terms of giving a full-fledged opinion until I know more, because knowledge is power, I think, in these circumstances. KJ, always great to hear from you. Always is. Viewers, thank you very much for tuning in to the show today. I really appreciate it. Until next time, we'll speak to you all again soon. Top 6 show at 6, so come join us there. We'll catch up soon. Bye-bye.